Anyone else a worrier in here? Anyone else worry? I worry. I like to adopt that saying, why pray when you can worry? It's actually the opposite of that, right? We want to when we have worries, we should be praying, but for some reason our flesh just wants us to worry. But these verses have been super helpful to me. Jesus says, "Let not your heart be troubled." And you can see why the disciples' hearts would be troubled, right? In light of all the things we just said. Our rabbi, our teacher, who we dwell with, who we think is the Messiah, is now going to be crucified and die. And we gave up our whole lives for this. Not only that, but Judas is going to betray him. And Peter, the rock, is going to deny him. You can imagine why their hearts would be troubled. But Jesus is recognizing that these men are stressed out. They are troubled, but he's reassuring them that you have nothing to worry about. And he's going to tell them why. And this is an active thing. Let not your heart be troubled. We participate in this. Let not. It's active. If we reflect our faith and our focus on Jesus, he's saying, let not your heart be troubled. Let not yourself be stressed. So let's think about our own lives. What do you worry about the most? Do you worry about death? Do you worry about health? About meeting expectations? Do we worry about political turmoil? Whatever it is, I want you to fill it in for yourself and listen to what Jesus says about things of this world troubling your heart and his remedy for it. Instead of giving in to a troubled heart, Jesus told them to firmly put their trust in God and Jesus himself. This is a super bold claim, saying, you believe in God the Father? Believe also in me. What's he saying there? They are one. If you believe in God the Father, believe in me. People say Jesus never claimed to be God. They knew exactly what he was saying here. Jesus never promised, this is a common misconception within Christianity, is that Jesus never promised that we would have a trouble-free life. But what he did promise is that we could have an untroubled heart in the most troublesome of times, by through focusing on him. Then he says, let not your heart be troubled, in light of what he's about to say in verse 2. And what does he say? What is he referencing here? His Father's house. What's his Father's house? This is heaven. This is glory. In light of heaven, let not your hearts be troubled. In my Father's house there are many mansions. I've heard people say dwelling places. In ancient Israel, if your father had a tent and you got married and had kids, they would actually just build another tent onto like the back of it. And it would just be like this big tent. I don't know if it's mansions, if it's apartments, condos, tents. I don't care what it is, but if it's in heaven with Jesus, I'm in for it. And this is one of my favorite verses. It's like an unsung hero for me at the end of verse 2. What does he say? He says, if this was not so, I would have let you know. I would have told you. How much comfort can we have in that? If there was more we needed to know, if John missed something, if the Bible wasn't constructed correctly, if Jesus missed a word or two here and there that would help us be comforted, he would have told us. But he's saying it's completed. There's nothing more you need than to focus on me and believe in me to have comfort in this world. If it were not so, I would have told you. If I wasn't preparing a place for you, I would have told you. That's an amazing comfort verse for me. He's saying that you have nothing to worry about. Believe in me. Trust in me. And not only in verse 3 is Jesus going away to prepare a place for us, but he's coming again to receive us. Amen to that, right? That's our blessed hope, is that Jesus would return for his bride. And we are closer to that day now of the return of Christ than any generation has ever been in the history of mankind. Do we think about that? We are closer to the return of Christ than anyone. Are we living our lives like that, with that reality? And I feel like parents can relate a lot to this. When you find out your family's going to be welcoming a new baby into your house, everyone asks kind of like the same kind of questions. When are you due? Is it a boy? Is it a girl? What's their name going to be? Is it your first? And they always get to like that final question, typically directed at the dad. You have the nursery ready? You have the nursery? These are all great questions. But isn't it kind of crazy, those of us who are parents, the extent that we go to make the baby who has no idea what's going on feel loved in that nursery? You pick a theme, you pick a color, you get the crib, you get the decorations, you line up the stuffed animals all over the room. It looks perfect. And we love our babies so much, and we do that for them. Then I got to thinking, if we love our children in our fallen state in the way that we love, and we prepare such a glorious place in our opinion for them, imagine the place that God is preparing for us in his perfect love, waiting for us. I thought about that this week. It was mind-blowing. I'm like, we invest so much time in our kids' rooms. Imagine what he's doing for us, where love is perfected. And then we get to the entire purpose of heaven at the end of verse 3. This is where Jesus will be, and this is where we will be also. So I got to thinking this week, which is usually good, sometimes bad. What makes heaven heaven? Is it the golden streets? Is it the pearly gates? Is it the sea of glass prior to the throne? Is it the choirs of angels and the cherubim? Is it the throne room? Is it the elders? What makes heaven heaven? None of these things make heaven heaven. I heard a pastor say this week, as as I prepared that a place could have vast mansions, could have pearly gates, it could have golden streets. But without the presence of Christ there, it might as well be hell. Heaven is heaven because Jesus is there. Heaven is heaven because his presence is there, and he will finally be united with his creation that he's redeemed by his blood. What makes heaven heaven is him.